Hello, welcome back to the Black Doctors Podcast. Welcome to a new year, 2023. It's going to be the first episode in this new year. And also going to launch a new season. We're going to be rolling into season 7 of the Black Doctors Podcast. This summer, I guess we'll hit probably 3 years on the air, putting out content and hopefully sharing these inspiring stories of underrepresented minority in healthcare physicians and other healthcare workers, allied health professions. It's been a wild ride. That last season was fantastic. I was able to do some collaborations that I've been wanting to do for a long time, especially with the tour for Diversity in Medicine. You may remember they took over one of the months. I think it may have been October. It was for the whole month. Their staff and their team came on and took over the mic and shared their own kind of content and talked about their organization and the work that they're doing to increase diversity in medicine. And you may remember a portion of the proceeds of last season was going to go to support their efforts as well. So we did donate $1,000. I think it was the donation that it finally came out to at the end of season 6. We're going to jump into season 7. I will say I'm in a huge state of transition and flux. The previous podcast hosting platform kind of went down and went on to other things. So I had to find an alternative. So I'm getting set up and running on a new podcast host in the middle of, smack dab in the middle of my critical care fellowship. Just spent the last month at the CardioThoracic ICU, which was ridiculously busy. And as of now, jumping into new year, new month, have a pretty big event coming up, and then just busy with fellowship stuff. So looking forward to finishing up over the next 6 months and then moving on to my real job, I suppose. Anyways, we're going to keep going and keep on providing fantastic, inspiring content. But thank you for bearing with me, as my time commitments and constraints will fluctuate over time. This month, you're probably going to hear quite a few replays of previous episodes. We have, I think, over 150 different episodes at this rate. And I can pull up some of the episodes from seasons past and share those and remaster the audio because I have learned a little bit more about how to edit audio. And hopefully these episodes are sounding a little better these days. As we step foot into a new year, I wanted to start by sharing something a little different. Like, I don't really do New Year's resolutions. I feel like if there's something you want to do or something you want to change, you should be able to do that at any point in the year. You don't have to stop and wait until a new year begins to read a book or start exercising. So I try to live my life, to that rule that if I want to change something, I can just change it. I don't need a specific day or date to do things. So I don't really make New Year's resolutions per se. But this week I do want to share one of the things that is huge and has been key to me finding happiness, to me living an extremely fulfilled life, something that just really, when I came across these concepts, it changed the way that I looked at things. My perspective, my worldview was drastically different. And it continues to pay dividends even to this day. And I still kind of subscribe to this way of thinking. That is the concept of minimalism. If you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen some of my previous posts about minimalism and, wondering how the heck is Stephen a minimalist when he has 11 different instruments and, recording equipment just hanging out in his office. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But I want to share my journey into minimalism and talk about the things it has helped me achieve and how it's shifted my mindset. So I don't recall when exactly I stumbled upon the documentary. The documentary came out in 2015, but I probably, I was, I just finished medical school in 2014. And so it would have been somewhere like in the beginning phases of residency when I stumbled across the documentary. It's entitled Minimalism, a documentary about the important things. Stars a couple people, Dan Harris, Ryan Nicodemus, Rick Hansen. They've gone on to do a lot more writing and reading, etc., about this concept of minimalism. About the same time, I also read a book called Essentialism, and it just kind of helped with more of the same, putting things in perspective and helping live a more fulfilled life. This documentary, which I highly recommend you checking out and reading, kind of boils down to the concept of love people and use things. This documentary talks about how, as human beings, we live in this world that is targeting consumption. We live to consume. We're consuming media, television, consumer goods, food, right? That's just the world that we live in. And how we can consume all these things and purchase all these things and have these things be a part of our lives and furnish our houses and living environments. But these things don't last forever. And some of these things wear out very quickly. You buy them over and over again. The documentary kind of puts things into perspective about why do we buy the things that we buy? Why are we driven by the things that we're driven by? Talks about, the illusion of keeping up with the Joneses. You're looking at other people for external validation of the things that you possess. Some of the things that this documentary talks about is how people are spending money faster than we earn money. That's very true. And it still might be a little true for me, even as a subscriber to minimalism. We'll talk about how I'm not a strict minimalist, if there's such a thing. There's levels to it. But we have so much outflow, and when compared to the inflow, there's a concept of the prodigious accumulators of wealth. I can't recall which book that comes from, but this book just breaks down. This is a financial book, and it talks about how people don't save money essentially. And if you want to be rich or financially well off or stable, you just have to cut down on your outflow because you can't always adjust the inflow, the financials that you bring in. One of the things that drives this consumption lifestyle is that people are always trying to buy happiness. People have studied this to the point that marketing is extremely effective. It shows you what true happiness, quote unquote, is. And if you purchase this product, or you go on this vacation, or you drive this car, then you too can be happy. People have this illusion that life should be perfect. You see the lives that your favorite sitcom actor has. You see the lives of the rich and famous, the folks on TV and the news. Everybody is always so put together, and we have this illusion and this discongruity that why doesn't my life look like what I see on TV or now what I see on social media? We have all these Instagram influencers, med influencers. One of the reasons I really got active in social media was because I looked at all of the med influencers and saw that the lifestyle they depicted going through medical school and residency was definitely not what I experienced. I looked rough and ragged most of the time. Maybe that was just me. I didn't keep myself together as much as I could have. But this whole perfect, study nooks and these fantastic apartments and these designer scrubs was what I saw being portrayed. And I said, wait a minute, that's not my experience. And I wanted to initially share my experience as a medical student and share with other medical students that, hey, it's okay to not wear the fancy scrubs. It's okay to not have this glamorous lifestyle while in medical school. You too can just barely get by like I did. So that's kind of what helped launch myself into that social media realm. You'll see if you look at my page, like I don't really dress up or put my best foot forward, but I'm also not like trying to make a living off of social media. So I respect that. If social media is your hustle, then obviously you have to have a much different approach to it than I do. But if social media is not your hustle and you're not, making money off of it or whatever, you're just sharing your life, then, do you really need to put that much thought into it? Social media should just be a byproduct of the things that you feel and that you want to put into the world, as opposed to trying to truly influence people. If you're making money, sure, influence away. But if you're just doing it for your own enjoyment and for your mental health, then share the things that you care about. Don't worry about having a perfectly manicured uh, feed in on Instagram or on TikTok or whatever. Just use that social media as an outflow, as a creative outlet for you. A little off track, but that just ties into that concept that we should all live this perfectly procured lifestyle. We grow up, focus on this American dream, the house with a picket fence, and I think fortunately over the last couple of years we've kind of changed that concept of the American dream, so it's not so so much of the same. There's different cultures in America, and I think we've kind of expanded this American dream. But people have this concept that they want to be, on lifestyles of rich and famous. They don't want to work. They want these immaculate houses, and maybe that's something you'll accomplish at some point. But is it okay if you don't accomplish that? Is it okay if you live in a bungalow that's comfortable and that meets all your need and it is safe and provides shelter? As I mentioned earlier, we can't always make more money, but we can control our spending. You get to realize there's a lot more to life than just making money, paying your bills, and going to work. You got to find joy in those other things. Why are you working so hard? What are you saving money for? And focus on being present in each and every moment. We spend so much of our time at work. We spend a lot of our time at work, honestly. And if you hate your job, or if you're just there to make a paycheck, then geez, you hate a significant portion of your life. So try to be present in everything. I know some jobs kind of suck, not all jobs are fun. But I personally, back in medical school, tried some kind of mantras, and the mind is so powerful. If you tell yourself something again and again, eventually you'll start to believe it. So that's what I started to do. That simple saying that if you love what you do, then you never work a day in your life. I just kept saying that in my head, like over and over again. If I love what I do, I'll never work a day in my life. If I love what I do, I'll never work a day in my life. And eventually, I believed it. And maybe I'm just very easily satisfied and amused, but I honestly love my job. I'm blessed to be able to go to the hospital and do anesthesia. I am fortunate to be in the middle of a critical care fellowship. It's very busy, but I look back and I am so fortunate to be where I am. And I'm able to live and enjoy the moment, whether I'm at work, whether I'm at home with my wife, whether I'm watching Netflix, whether I'm playing music. I just always try to be present in every moment. We are always distracted by things. Yeah, I am distracted a lot by social media, but I free up a lot of my other time to waste time in other places, I guess, which what I'll I guess I'll talk about now. So when I watched this documentary about minimalism, they kind of went overboard. These guys were like walking around wearing three pairs of pants, two shirts. It was some like really intense form of minimalism, and that's not what how I live my life. I think if you actually have like a real job, quote unquote, and work in corporate America, obviously you have to have clothes. You have to have a couple of suits and some nice shirts. You work in the hospital, you have to have some decent clothes. You have to have maybe some scrubs if they're not provided by your hospital. You have to have certain things depending on your profession. And so for me, minimalism became really looking at what brings me joy. There's another documentary on Netflix about decluttering your life and figuring out what actually brings you joy. And those exercises and just thinking about what truly makes me happy has been some of the most rewarding, liberating experiences. As I sit down and think, what really makes Stephen happy? There's two, I call them vices. They're not necessarily vices, but I think one of the keys for you this year, sit down and think about, what are the one, two, or three things that I truly enjoy, that I don't mind taking time to spend doing those things. I don't mind putting resources into those things. What are the top three things? And then you prioritize those three things. If it's not one of those three, then you put that much lower down. And I'm not talking about like your family and your significant other and your kids and all that. Okay, you gotta make time for that. But for the hobbies and pastimes, because we have so many hobbies and so many pastimes that we can suck up all of our time. So for me, I realized that I don't really enjoy sports that much. So for the last like 4 or 5 years, I really haven't watched or followed sports. If the World Cup's on, I might watch a game or two if I'm at a bar. I might watch the Super Bowl, go to a Super Bowl party, but I don't have a sports team. I don't tune in every week because I don't want to have to give up that much of my time or my concentration or my life to follow a specific sports team, be it football, basketball, soccer, whatever. This just wasn't giving me joy. And so I was able to eliminate it. And I honestly don't miss it at all. There's so much, free brainwaves. I'm not memorizing players' stats or knowing where they were drafted or traded or the scores of different games. I'm not wasting emotion on the winners and losers. That's what worked for me. So sports, nope, took that out of my life. That's a big time commitment. Now, the two things that I truly enjoy are art and music. Now, art is something I've collected quite a few pieces of art, but it's something that I do. If there's a gallery or an art night somewhere, I can go look at this art, and it makes me feel different ways. I get emotional, I guess dopamine rushes, whatever. I'm inspired by it. And, for art gallery, I can go out 20 minutes and be back home. It's not a huge time commitment in that way. Or I can go to a museum and spend, a couple of hours looking at art. But I find it incredibly enriching to be inspired by these artists that have put so much of their time into their craft. Now that said, there is a financial limitation. I purchased art within reason. And then number two, there's a physical limitation because I only have so much wall space for art, especially, we live in an apartment now. So I'm physically, geographically limited with how much art that I can collect. Music, that is my vice, my one or my second true love, my wife being the first. But I love music. So my vice is music. I almost spare no expense when it comes to music instruments. Now, I'm pretty, a lot of them are pretty moderately priced. So from a financial perspective, I'm not spending a lot of money. But from a time perspective, I can always spend a lot of time on my musical instruments. I have a couple of different keyboards. I learned how to produce. Obviously, I do the audio editing for the podcast itself. I'm learning how to use synthesizers and this beautiful world of music that all like comes into play in each instrument, especially as I get into electronic music and synthesizers. Learning the Moog synthesizer is going to help me with the Teenage Engineering synthesizer and the OPZ and all these things that kind of come together. And that is the one thing that I truly love, that I'm passionate about, that I am not worried at all about spending hours on a weekend because I have my music. Now I'm not spending hours doing music and then another couple of hours watching sports, right? I have, you know, eliminated so many things to make room for the things that truly, truly, truly bring me joy and make me happy. When it comes to the financials as well, I've eliminated, I'm not a watch person. I have two watches, but I only wear one. The watch I bought before I went to minimalism. But I wear one watch. I don't have to think about it in the morning or any time. What watch am I going to wear? I simplified my wardrobe. I wear white button-down shirts and blue button-down shirts. I think I have one or two striped blue and white button-down shirts. And then I wear solid color pants, colored khakis, and then occasionally jeans. So pretty much all of my wardrobe is just mix and match. Grab a shirt, grab a pair of pants, I'm ready to go. I've cut down the number of shoes that I have. So I have a pair of boots, I have some casual shoes, a pair of sneakers, and a pair of my moccasins, driving shoes. So I've cut down on those because, for me, how many pairs of shoes can I possibly wear at one? You can only wear one pair of shoes at one time, and shoes just aren't my thing. So if it's not giving me joy, I eliminated it, or I don't put as much stock into accumulating those items. I don't really like cars. I know growing up as a kid, I wanted all the fancy cars, the Humvees and the Dodge Vipers and all those things. And now, as an adult, I'm like, I have my 2011 Volvo SUV, gets me from point A to point B, is paid off. Thank God I don't have a car note. It's safe, and I don't need anything right now. So I'm happy with the car. And then when it comes to fashion, like I mentioned, I wear the same thing over and over again. And I don't worry about staying in or out of fashion. I try and purchase items that are fairly timeless, just solid colors. And then, my award-winning personality shines through and not my outfit. Now, I say all this to say, and not to pass judgment, and please don't take this the wrong way. I could care less what things that you choose to do, whether you love fashion or you love shoes or you love collecting hats or fancy cars, whatever it is that brings you joy. That's your job. I feel like this year you could sit down and say, these three things are the things that I love and that I want to invest my time in and my other resources. And as you eliminate the things number, 4, 5, 6, you will have so much more time and energy and resources to put into those things that you truly value and that truly bring you joy. Our identity as humans should be defined by the things that we do, not by the things that we own. Society continues to tell us that you need all of these things. And it's like, okay, just because society says you need these designer handbags or shoes or shirts, does that Gucci, Louis, Fendi, whatever t-shirt feel any better than a Hanes t-shirt that's cotton? I don't know, maybe. But there's levels. But whatever like truly makes you happy is what you should focus on. Minimalism is about you being on a quest for a life that's good for yourself and for a life that's good for the people around you that interact with you. Are you adding value to their lives? Are the things that you prioritize adding value to your life? This boils down to simple fact, love people, use things. And ever since, watching this documentary, it's really changed my perspective. I always question, what do I truly need to be happy? And, especially now being married, so much of my happiness is built into spending time with my wife. We love traveling together. So the resources that I save by not investing in things that I don't truly value to impress people that I don't, I'm friends with, but may not truly value their opinion. Those resources can funnel into things that bring my wife and I closer together, that guide us towards financial stability, that allow me to purchase an additional instrument, or at least have the time to practice my craft and make music that I can share with other people. So I would love to hear your thoughts on minimalism. Maybe you can implement a couple of these concepts into your life this year and let me know how it goes. Let me know if you like this kind of style of episode. I know it's a little different from what I've done in the past, but this has just been something that's made so much of a difference in my life that as we start this year, 2023, I'm going to share this with you, at least give you something to think about and consider. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Black Doctors Podcast. I'm Dr. Stephen Bradley, your host. We are here because representation matters.